Bam Pow Comic Hour with your host, Andrew Glonner.
And Chris Ramos.
Tonight, we discuss Injustice.
Injustice based
Gods Among Us.
The video game, if you've played the video game.
Yep. This is a spoiler-filled podcast tonight. Very special. So if you have not played the video game Injustice or read a comic, maybe go watch a trailer. See a little previews into what's going on in the universe.
Or pause this podcast, go read 2,200 pages, and come back.
Or not. Or if you just want to see, how to get into this weird what-if Elseworlds crazy universe, this is a good stepping stone for that too.
So for anyone who has played the video game, you know that it's set in DC Comics. Of course, we're reviewing the Omnibus collections, which are 2 volumes of Injustice, Gods Among Us, Volume 1. It's like 1,100 pages. And then Injustice, Gods Among Us, Volume 2, about 1,100 pages. There's more Injustice after this, but this is
what we're focusing on
one.
tonight.
Injustice first part. Yeah.
So the story goes that Jim Chaswick and his team are over at the gaming studio that creates and works on Mortal Kombat games. They're like, oh, wouldn't it be a cool idea if we could introduce some DC properties to Mortal Kombat? They work with DC Comics, and they go, oh yeah, that's great, go for it. They started scripting it, and once they started scripting it, they went back and said, what would be cool? We need tie-in comics to this, as all good merchandising and franchising goes. So they're like, yeah, of course we'll do that. Once the first video game starts coming out, people are loving it. And so
that was on every platform, right?
Yeah,
Xbox
it was, and
everything.
eventually got into mobile and things like that. And people are taking off with it. And so Tom Taylor, he writes the first 3 years of Injustice, and he doing that and releasing those one at a time on I believe a monthly basis. This comic got so huge that it outperformed Batman. Batman is the golden child for DC Comics. He's always their number one seller, 90% of the time, I would guess.
Yeah, and for years, decades even, they would judge comic books based on how close they sold to Batman. So, if they put a new comic out in March, they'd say, "Oh wow, you sold 42% to Batman."
Yeah,
I mean, it's just right. Batman was their top, so they said we're going to judge everyone on getting to the Batman sell level, I suppose.
Yeah.
And
so to outperform that, that's going to get some attention. That's going to get some look-sees and say, oh, what's going on here? That must be really interesting. Let's see what we can do with this. And
it was interesting. I mean, it takes a lot of the most popular characters in the world. DC's part of it, because Marvel did Marvel versus Capcom and stuff like that.
Yeah, but nowhere on a scale like this. So they went all in.
Yeah, they took every character and just said, now we're going to put a story to it, because that's what most fighting games need is why are they doing this? Why are you fighting?
Right, and putting some real effort into it.
Yeah, the game was really popular in its own right too. So it's not like the game didn't fall apart. The books didn't fall apart. It's they both did awesome.
Well, yeah. So this was a big home run for DC, I would say. And we really enjoyed the first 3 years, at least, of Injustice. There were some other ideas after it gets past the first 3 years of this book, and we will mention that later in the podcast episode. Tom had to leave the book to go work on another project, as all writers do. Sometimes it just happens. And so we had other writers, I believe, Brian Bussoletto, come in and work on it. He does all right, but it's trying to recapture thunder or trying to follow the the original writers big steps to fill, big shoes to follow, I guess.
I mean, if we'll break down the years here, but the story itself spans quite a bit of time, right?
Yep.
So, and they already knew that. They knew that this was years and years and years. So Tom Taylor, I think his first reaction was just to go in hard, make all of these what if moments, put together these battles or put together characters from the DC universe, and like, why would they agree with Superman, or would they disagree with him, or would they agree with Green Lantern, things like that. And then all of a sudden you started seeing like the mentality behind each character, like what are their values, what are their core values, and number one, what does it take to make Superman unhinged? Like, what does it take to make him crack, like really
Yes.
flip out? And of course, the easy answer to that is Lois Lane.
Yes. It
His
all
family.
boils down to Lois Lane, not Martha. I'm talking to
Yeah.
you, Snyder people.
His family.
His
Don't
family.
mess with Superman's family.
Right. And really, that is kind of the premises. Once Lois Lane dies, how does that affect the Man of Steel? How does that, killing the death of his love life, how does that set Superman over the edge?
Yeah, and Tom Taylor said it right in his introduction. He said he's such a huge Superman fan. He's like, I love all these characters. I'm a big, big Superman fan. He's my number one. Like, I was born when the movie came out. I love Superman and everything about him. And then there's a line in there where he says, when he was tasked with breaking him, he said, of course, since I knew him so well, I knew exactly how to break him. And I thought that was kind of neat because it's, it kind of plays on, you are the one who knows how to hurt your loved ones the most, right?
Yep.
So like, he loves Superman. He's like, I know exactly what to do to break him down.
Yeah. Was this his favorite story that he wanted to write as one of his first DC titles? Probably not initially, but he's like, I'm up for the challenge. And he just, blew it out of the park. Even quoted in the forward, it says, when I was offered this gig, I was asked to write 16 chapters over 16 weeks. We quickly realized that was a mistake. And though it was only 15 to tonight, almost 6 years later, thanks to you all fans who embraced it, I'm sitting here on the course for writing 150 chapters.
Wow.
Which is huge. Huge. That would never, that's not something that usually happens today.
Yeah, and usually they assign writers and artists, and they sort of put together a team for a new direction. What DC Comics does a lot, and Marvel and Dark Horse, and I mean,
It's a popular thing today.
They say, all right, we're going to put together a new story, like a new line for Green Lantern, right?
Yep.
So they take the hottest writers and the hottest artists at the time, and they say, hey guys, let's make a new run of this. You can start the story out how you want. You can start drawing it how you want. And they give it like this image and this branding, and they give a good story. And then like maybe 10 issues in or something, they'll say, all right, we're going to hand this off to another writer and another artist because we need you, our big guns, on another project.
Yeah, they're just bouncing around.
So then sometimes people embrace that, but it's sort of like handing off, something that you are starting to just get into, and then they hand it off to someone else, and you're like, all right, we're the fans, you better not screw this up. Which I always think is really difficult to do. And we've always said before, the comic book community even says it a lot, it's difficult to write Superman and to write Batman and to write
these characters
Spider-Man
with huge legacies.
Captain America. Yeah, it's just so much is going on with this. There's so much story with it.
Right.
And it's like, how do you then just jump in and say, I'm going to write something that's never been written before?
Exactly.
And that's why Injustice, I think, became so popular, because it was fresh, totally fresh.
And there was a lot of collaboration going on as well, both on the video game side with their scripts, what Tom Taylor's doing, and they're all kind of putting it together. And there's a lot of teamwork.
Yeah. So it starts out, since we said we can spoil things, we're just going
we're gonna run right into it. Lois Lane dies.
and that was it. Boom. So it starts out with Superman and Lois Lane. Lois is very happy, and she finally says, listen closely. And Clark hears 2 heartbeats. So you get the sense right away, of course, that he has this sort of like inside edge to I want to say like sense people, you know, and that plays a huge factor in the story, which is why I'm mentioning it. But he can hear people screaming across the city. He can hear, you know, waterfalls. He can hear
Heartbeats.
explosions and
Yeah.
heartbeats and
What rate they're beating at.
yeah. I mean, if he flew up in the middle of a
Lie
city
detector.
and really concentrated, he could probably hear your voice and pick you out. So he heard 2 heartbeats. And so, of course, Lois is pregnant. And the first thing he does is go find Batman and tell his best friend that he's going to be a father. Of course, Batman guesses it, which is really fun.
He's like, because he's the world's greatest detective. Of course he's gonna.
Yeah, he's
figure it
like,
out.
you're grinning like an idiot, is what he said.
Yeah.
So, it's like
Poor
Lois is
line.
pregnant.
Dude, come on.
So that starts out right away that you build this friendship between Batman and Superman, which any comic fan understands that is a long, long, long
Yep. Legacy.
world's finest, you know, grouped
Mhm.
together, things like that. And Lois Lane, while Superman is finding Batman, she is investigating like a tip at the docks.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And you know, all of
Yeah,
this
nuclear
is
like
kind of,
arms deal or something.
yeah. You know, and all this is following like how normal comics work.
Right. Kind of hokey. Oh, there's a deal going on at the docks. I'm going to
Yeah.
see what's up with
Lois
that.
is like, I'm going to go undercover. And then Superman's like, be safe. And, you know, he still leaves it up to her to handle her journalistic instincts. And, you know,
Yes.
of course, she always gets in trouble and then he saves her and all that. But he is talking with Bruce in Gotham City. And then at the Metropolis docks, the Joker arrives.
Yes. Somewhere that Joker is not usually found.
Yeah, Joker and Harley Quinn don't really go to Metropolis. And,
Yep.
you know, that's one of my things too, is that in the comic book world, you know, people always say, well, gosh, why doesn't Superman just take care of everything in the world? You know, like, why is he only in Metropolis?
Well, we're going to answer that question for you tonight.
And it's because they kind of give like territories to each superhero a little bit.
Roughly.
Yeah, like Flash has Keystone City and Green Lantern has, you know, his
not Coast City. Yeah, it's a Coast City.
Coast City.
Yeah.
And, you know, Metropolis and Gotham City, of course, are split up and everyone has their own, just like in Marvel Comics, you know, each superhero has their own little like spot of New York.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, that's why New York.
Hell's Kitchen, things
Hell's
like that.
Kitchen, yeah.
So,
mostly East Coast.
You're not used to seeing the Joker and Harley Quinn in Metropolis like ever. So
right.
for them
Like,
to be on the docks.
okay.
So the very first thing that happens is Jimmy Olsen's looking through his camera. He sees the Joker, and the Joker fires his gun through the camera, killing Jimmy Olsen.
Bam!
That was the first
Long-standing
one.
supporting character of Superman gone.
And you're like, well, there you go. And then Lois is, of course, in the hands of the Joker.
Yes. Yeah, so Superman's like stricken, like, oh my God, Jimmy Olsen died and the Joker killed him. Whoa, okay. You know, calls up, he's like, I can't see her. I don't know where Lois is. And so he immediately calls the entire Justice League and says, hey, can you help me go find her?
Yeah. And, you know, that shows too, like Superman puts a call out to the Justice League and says, I need help. I mean, everyone goes.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Like, if Superman can't do it on the first try, that's usually bad.
But they split everyone up. You know, Wonder Woman, he says, you go find out what's happening at the docks, you know, because if something was down there, Wonder Woman, take care of it.
Yeah.
You know, Flash, search everything in Metropolis, everywhere, underground facilities, sewers, everywhere. Flash is all over it.
Cyborg, scan the internet.
Yeah.
What's your superpower?
Check it out. Check out YouTube. And, you know, everyone has their own little
assignment.
Yeah, nooks, like their own thing that they do. And, you know, Batman's already on the detective as a missing woman kind of thing.
Right.
So you get the idea that with the Justice League united, they can pretty much solve just about anything and quick, right?
Right.
So
they find a submarine that was patrolling by the docks, and you know they that leads to where the Joker is. And the Joker, he's doing some weird stuff. He's experimenting on Lois and with his laughing gas, one of the Joker's like infamous gags or whatever, or how would you describe laughing gas?
His laughing,
Yeah.
it's like the Joker toxin.
Oh, yeah, the Joker
Yeah.
toxin. Yeah, that's poison. Yep.
Yeah, and
Very
it
one of his
just-
biggest tropes.
You can get over it, I guess, but it just pretty much warps your mentality. Like it
Yep.
makes you not think right, and
Yes.
it makes you sort of crazy, and
Mm-hmm.
and you get a Joker grin, of course. And then he mixed that with the Scarecrow toxin, which
Yeah,
makes you relive your like worst nightmare. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
As
like-
seen in Batman Begins.
Yes.
And other things. or no, The Dark Knight Rises. No, it was Batman Begins.
Yeah, Batman Begins.
Yeah, the first one.
And so Scarecrow mixed with Joker toxin makes a nightmare.
Hell of a drug. A hell of a
yeah,
drug.
yeah. A nightmare come to life, pretty much. So Superman's worst nightmare pops up that Doomsday is in the same room
Right.
with
This
him.
is the same Doomsday that killed him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they kept that in the story.
Yep.
You know, so like Injustice, they brought just about every historical figure with their same
History.
background,
Yeah, background and history. So some things outside, even though this is a what if, they try to keep some legacy together.
Yeah, like Harley Quinn's with the Joker, and like Green Arrow's with Canary, and and Black Canary.
Yep.
So you, as a fan, can instantly connect to all of these characters because they
Right.
didn't really make them really different.
Right. Yeah.
And the other cool thing is that the characters that are in this were the same age and sort of timeline story wise as what was happening in the comics at that time.
Yeah.
So like Damian's in here and stuff.
Yeah.
So Doomsday appears. Of course, Superman's like, Lois is here. I'm trying to save her, and now Doomsday's here. And then he's like, I'm gonna get Doomsday out of here. So he flies Doomsday up to the space
Yes.
out into the, and he just figures, I'm just gonna throw him out of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And of course, the Joker and Harley Quinn are smiling that everything is going according to
Yep.
plan.
And they get away from said submarine. They are stopped by the Justice League, and they're starting to question them and whatnot. And so Batman's like, "Wait, what's going on here?" And he finally gets, we don't have time for this. Wonder Woman, use your lasso, okay? And try
And
to
Joker says, "Don't worry. Once her heartbeat stops, the bomb will go off."
like,
And Batman's like, "What bomb? And
Yeah.
why are you talking about her heartbeat?"
mm-hmm. And so we find out that not only is the Scarecrow toxin mixed in with Joker's laughing gas, it also is laced with kryptonite. And so that's just, a cocktail for Superman. And once Lois Lane's heartbeat stops, the nukes go off.
Yeah, and Superman realizes that he's not holding Doomsday in space; he's holding Lois Lane,
Dun, dun, dun.
and she's dead. And so her heart stops beating. A nuke goes off and takes out Metropolis, the whole city,
Yep.
11 million
One
people.
big whopping explosion.
And the Joker just laughs because the Joker was bored with Batman. That's kind of how it starts. He says he wanted a challenge, like a bigger challenge. He goes, Batman, he goes, you and I, we do this dance,
Yep.
I do something wrong, you fight me. I go in Arkham Asylum. I get out. I do something wrong. You fight me. I go in Arkham Asylum. And so Joker told Harley Quinn, he says, you know what? I'm bored with Batman and this carousel we're on. So he says,
Spice it up.
Yeah, let's try doing something to Superman. And the Joker just thinks it's hilarious. And, Superman, Lois died. Of course, she was pregnant. Metropolis gets totally leveled. So the Joker took everything away from Superman.
Yep. His hometown, his love of his life, and his potential child.
Yeah. And at first, Batman says, you're going back to Arkham. I mean, it was just like,
Yeah, he's like, well, shucks, Joker. Well, you really got us that time.
He's
I
like-
guess you're going to go to Arkham.
you went too far. And
Yeah.
Superman just comes back like just livid, broken. I mean,
Yep.
he's not angry yet. He's just broken.
Yeah.
Because everything about Superman,
It's pretty fast transition.
Yeah. I mean, this is, and this is
It's
what,
exaggerated, yeah.
you're like 40 pages in. So you're like,
Right.
oh my gosh, like this just takes off.
Mhm.
So the great thing about this, and that's, as I guess we keep saying, spoiler filled. I mean, that's a big spoiler, but that's just sort of the initial storyline of this, and a lot of people know that's that's what happens.
Yes.
I think it's all the twists and turns after this that are a surprise. Um,
Right.
but if you know anything about Superman, so he's from another planet. He comes to Earth and he says, "I'm going to live life as a human. I'm going to be the best human that I can
Yep.
and be the best superhero I can."
Yep.
And, full of hope, full of,
Yep.
destiny, full of
Representing
all that.
good.
Yeah. And so he tries to start putting together his own life, which of course is Lois and a kid.
Mhm.
And they want to, make a life together away from
Start settling
all of
down.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of this craziness. And, you know, there's just few things that Superman says, these are mine, like
Yeah.
Mon Pa Kent, Lois, his life is built around like trying to be a normal human and not have his Superman overlap, right? So like
Right.
when villains attack Lois, Superman's like, she's being attacked because I'm Superman,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah. Feels personally attacked on that level as
yeah.
well.
And so he always kept his secret identity because he wanted to be a human,
Yeah.
right? So of course now just about everything's taken away from him,
Yep.
and he killed her. So like that's
Yeah, that's also
his,
the screwed up thing. Like he,
I did
yep,
this.
everything, all the forces around him caused him to kill his own wife, which is really screwed up.
Yeah.
And that's like really pushing the envelope in some ways. So in a rage-filled moment, revengey, he goes off. He says, I'm gonna go stop the Joker. I'm done with this. And everybody's like, no, you shouldn't do that, dude. No. And he goes as far as like taking Green Lantern's ring off of him.
Yeah.
And he's like, nope. Sorry. I like you, man. I like you, Hal, but no, I gotta go do this.
And he was blasting to Gotham City, right?
Yeah.
Like he's just busts right in. Batman's interrogating the Joker. And as comic book readers, we're like, oh man, Superman's mad. He's mad.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the world of injustice, Superman runs right up to Joker and puts his hand right through him.
Yeah. He's like,
that's it.
And Batman, that's always his line that he will never cross. That is the key. One of the other key things about the story is, where do you cross the line? And, it gets into all the ethics of that. Batman said, I will never kill, because if I kill, I'll become like one of my villains.
Yeah, that's always been the argument, is that for Batman, he became Batman because of death.
Yes.
His parents were killed, so he became Batman to be vengeance, to make sure that no one else has that tragedy. And he doesn't use a gun because his parents were killed with a gun. So
Yep.
he says, I am going to go beyond that. We're going to do this my way. And he's always had that character trait, and that's just been his thing. That's kind of the duality that's happening in this, is because Batman, it's funny because they start holding themselves to their morals.
Yes.
And the first thing most people would think of is that Superman has more morals than Batman, but it's the other way around.
Yes.
Like Batman.
It's such an ingenious twist too, to do and write and like, see happen on the page too.
Yeah. And Tom Taylor, like he in 3 pages, he's like, boom, this is how this person acts. Okay, they changed. Okay, this is how it is. And you're like, okay, wow. I mean, it's just the pacing is so quick.
Yes, that is one of the good things. And I always think of sometimes when an Omni goes that way is sometimes it just kind of flows and it goes and it's natural, but it's really fast and intense. And it's like, whoa, okay, that's happening. You don't have to spend a lot of time, because this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened.
There's no debate.
It just kind of, it's no debates. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It just happens. And you're just along for the ride.
So in the Injustice video game, then Joker's not even in it?
I have not played a lot of the game or spent a lot of time with it personally.
I mean, I just wonder if they still had parts of that because this comic was sort of like at the same time,
Yeah.
And it starts setting up this like Team Batman or Team Superman.
Yes.
It's like,
they classify it as the regime and then the insurgency. And you start playing with those terms as well. they started classifying that because Superman starts becoming more of a tyrant, and you see Superman's goodwill towards men just kind of decay and go into madness.
Yeah, I mean, and so this is all happening in what we had mentioned earlier. Injustice is split up into 5 years. So this is obviously the beginning of year one. And it just shows Superman breaking down little by little, right? He starts
Yep.
looking at the world and he starts looking at just tragedy and he starts looking at it in a different eye. Before he would go and save people and say, I've saved you. I hope this doesn't happen again. And now he's seeing it as, I have nothing left. I still want to
Yes.
be on Earth. I still see Earth as my home.
Yeah.
Because remember, at any time, Superman can just leave.
Yep.
I mean, he can just
Yep.
go somewhere else.
Superman, he can do pretty much what he
He
wants.
just go live at a different planet
Yep.
in the next solar system.
Mhm.
But he says, no, this is still my Earth. It's still my world.
And he doesn't want what happened to him, Metropolis, and anything happen to anyone else, no matter what.
Yeah. And so his first step, since he doesn't have a wife or a home or Metropolis or anything like that, is that he unmasks himself. And he
Yes,
says,
that was another huge
yeah,
moment.
I'm Clark Kent. And that was a huge deal, not because, see, I always want to go off on all these rabbit trails, but like Spider-Man, see, when we jump back and forth, Marvel, right? DC,
Yeah.
right? Spider-Man doesn't unmask himself because he knows that his villains will go after his family.
Yep.
So Spider-Man's like, I'm not going to put my friends in danger. So if I'm hidden, then no one knows who is closest to me.
Exactly. They can just look him up on Yellow Pages.
Yeah. So then for the Joker knew that Lois Lane would break Superman. Like he just knew it. But when that happens, Superman says, I no longer need my Clark Kent identity. I don't need to pretend I'm a human anymore.
Yes.
I'm not.
I think it's also because he's a little more distant away from Martha and Jonathan Kent, his parents.
Yeah, I guess if he was closer to, or like living at home or something like that.
Yeah, or if they were more in the public eye versus Lois.
Yeah, and that's the last time you see Clark Kent.
Yeah,
ever in this series.
Yes,
it's all Superman after this.
Right. So yeah, he decides after that point, so gets rid of the secret identity. He decides, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna go start world peace. And so how do you start world peace? You start getting rid of nuclear options. You start toppling all the other dictators of the world, all the tyrants. You start selling conflicts.
Yeah, that's his
any
first,
major.
I'm going to stop all this.
Yeah, so he does all these radical things, and he kind of sits everyone down and goes, if you got a problem with this, you're gonna deal with me. You're not gonna do it. There's no other governments. Don't worry about the United States. Whatever. If you do something wrong, I will know.
Yeah, and actually, the United States decides that they're not gonna go along with that.
Yeah,
And-
they're like, yeah. The president's like, okay, we'll play ball. But secretly, they're like, hey, Batman, you got an idea for this?
we need to get him out of here.
Yeah. So it hits home really fast, too. Yeah.
And that's why it's named Injustice Gods Among Us, because you quickly realize that as Superman says, are you with me or not? The first person that says, I am with you till the end is Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Wonder Woman has always been by Superman's side. And it's because she, again, is not from humanity.
Yeah, humanity.
She's from Themyscira. So she is able to just remove herself and just say, we're above humans.
Yes.
And she's a warrior. She knows.
She always wants to protect humanity.
Yeah.
But she is also aligned with Superman's vision of world peace.
Yeah. And she also can make those tough decisions.
Yes.
If she had 100 people in front of her and they said, 2 people died to save the rest, she'd say, okay.
Right.
I mean, she just knows.
And at some points of Superman and her decisions, I always felt like Wonder Woman was even more influencing him to do those ultimate decisions.
Yeah, that's true. She was sort of encouraging him.
Right.
to
And I think
take
Tom Taylor's
this
kind of leading up to that before he was, he was trying to make that a thing. because they do start to fall in love, probably in the like year 2, 3 part. They start falling in love with each other, but it's like she was influencing him because she didn't want him to regress or rethink or be paranoid about his decisions. She just was
Mhm.
kind of pushing him to keep going. And as like a reader, like, oh my God, what Wonder Woman, you're a good person. Like you're
Yeah.
really going for this.
But like there is a part too that god of war, Ares,
Aries, yeah.
he plays a big factor in this comic too.
Yeah, it's towards the end and then sets up Fear 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he says he really fears Wonder Woman. He fears the Amazon spirit, and he fears that she and Superman together. He says because he could not do this alone, but the princess does not have restraint. She will do what he
Yes.
can't.
Mm-hmm.
So it right away sets up sort of Superman as a dictator saying, "This is what I want," and then he looks around and says, "Who can do this for me?
Right.
With me?" But
Yeah.
he can't always be the face for all of that.
Yeah.
Um, and it kind of goes into a little bit of like team building, like usual, like what you would
Yep.
think. And it is kind of funny because when you think of like the comic versus the video game, um, you put together a team. That's like what you
Yes.
do in
Yeah.
fighting,
Mm-hmm.
games. So you're like, all right, who can I build? Who's going to be on that side? And the first reaction, I think, for some players would be to just load heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Superman, Wonder Woman,
Well, the
Aquaman,
best of the
Cyborg.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get all the strong ones, the strongest, together.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the story, I have to give it lots of props because Tom Taylor has the writing chops to put this together to be like, this makes sense, like these people would be together and
Yeah.
these people would make these
You
decisions.
got to be very knowledgeable about, DC Comics, the legacy that they've built, their backgrounds, what they would do, what they wouldn't do,
Mhm.
how could I flip the script, and this like twisted reality that really doesn't have much consequences outside this comic book, and kind of just pushes it forward. He doesn't have to
Yeah,
worry about continuity, just in his own story.
like the Flash is always, he in this story, he's like, oh, I'm just going to follow Superman because why wouldn't I mean, I
Exactly.
always have.
Watching Barry Allen, the Flash, like make decisions in this book is so interesting because he is like turns out to be the moral one. He's like, I follow Superman because Superman, but this doesn't feel right. This
Yeah.
is weird.
And then you forget that the Flash thinks at super speed. He does
Yeah.
everything at super speed. He thinks at super speed. So Superman, actually, there's quite a few times where he walks up to him and
Yep.
says, "All right, my next step is,
To get rid of guns.
yeah, to get rid of
Yeah,
guns."
that was weird.
And Barry
Interesting
Allen's like,
conversations.
"No."
Yeah.
And then Superman says, "You can think as fast as I can tell this
Yeah.
to you. So go through all the scenarios in your mind."
Yeah.
And he came to the same conclusion. It's like, oh, we're going to get rid of all guns because everyone else would take forever to explain this to.
Yeah.
But so
And
Superman
literally
knows that.
they're talking about this while playing a super speed game of chess.
Yeah.
And Superman starts winning that chess game, and then Flash starts getting back on because he's questioning him, like, if you do this, this is the consequences that you're going to
Yeah.
bring. And it gets really into it. Like, it's just incredible how far they're willing to take world peace and how seriously they want to take it.
And then you continue through year one and you see that Batman is doing the same thing. He's building his own team. But Batman has ways to infiltrate and get back at Superman's team that they haven't
Yep.
thought of. So you think, oh, they're the heavy hitters. What can hurt them? And Batman keeps finding ways
Yeah.
to do
So,
it.
but what the tragic thing to begin with, as far as Batman's side of this issue, first of all, Batman takes the stance that we gotta take down Superman. That is the promise.
Yeah,
He says, dictator, no, we can't do that. And Superman's already crossed that line. There's the moral line that Superman or Batman and the rest of the heroes initially said we're never going to cross.
It's
that line.
unforgivable.
It's unforgivable. Yes.
Yeah.
So he is willing to do that. But what happens is when they kind of fight over the Joker and they fight over, Superman coming into Arkham and trying to kill all these villains preemptively, Damian, his son, leaves him. to go fight with Superman, which we know from the history of Damian that his mother was Talia al Ghul. He was raised by assassins, and that's something that Damian was always a rough edge.
Yeah.
More than in a different way than Jason Todd was. Jason Todd was just more aggressive. Damian Wayne is just more like an assassin, and he thinks like an assassin because he kind of has a messed up childhood.
Yeah. And he was raised and trained to take over the world, and that's what his mom, Talia al Ghul, who is the daughter of Ra's al Ghul,
super like the big Batman villain.
Yeah, big villain, and his whole shtick is that humans cannot handle the earth. Like they just can't. They're ruining it, and they need to go, and that's just what it is. So he's like, I'm going to avenge the earth on behalf of
it's all this like
Mother
conqueror.
Earth.
Yeah, it's this conqueror mentality.
Yeah. So he says, Damian says, I'm going to go with Superman, like on his side.
Yep.
So of course, Batman's team starts fighting him. And one of the biggest fatalities comes up.
Yeah.
Damian.
So they're fighting in this jail, and he's like, no, you're wrong. And, kind of willy-nilly a little bit. Damian throws one of his, it's not a nunchuck, I would say, but it's kind of like that.
His
baton?
Stick.
Baton, yeah. Something like that. And him and Nightwing's in the room, Batman's in the room, Superman, and a couple of the Justice League members are in the room. And all of a sudden he throws it, and it hits Nightwing straight dead on in the skull, and Nightwing dies. That was one of the very shocking ones. Like, wow, he's dead. He's not getting up. Oh, he's dead.
Yeah. And
it pulled at my heart. I was like, yeah.
And everyone stops. Literally everyone. Even Superman is.
Yeah, he's like, we got to get
away from Batman.
Yeah.
And everyone stops because the entire superhero and supervillain community, because the villains were there too, everyone stops. They all respected Nightwing. Nightwing, the original Robin. I mean, he was always the golden boy. And even when villains knew they were fighting Nightwing, they always knew he was at least honorable.
Yep.
And
he was just a little bit better than Batman.
Yeah. And he was the one who calmed Batman a
little bit. Kind of balanced him out.
Yeah, he was the balance. And so now you see Batman in the same mindset as Superman now that he has lost something incredibly important to him.
Yeah.
So Tom Taylor has been doing a great job writing because he is setting up fatalities like you would have in the video game, right?
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, he's doing it on a purposefully building towards a specific timeline. So year one kind of has its first big death. They kind of continue battling and continuing fighting, and then you start getting into where is this like? Yeah,
they start dealing with like more world issues. How Superman's kind of breaking through all the boundaries and kind of surprising everyone of how far he will take this world peace.
Yep.
And he then starts evolving and going after and hiring like villains and saying, we just need more help. We just need more bodies. And kind of doing that, he's hiring outside of the planet. When he hires Lobo, who is crazy and kind of fun. And Batman will kind of counterpoint that, and he hires like the Martian Manhunter to, he's a shapeshifter, and he goes and infiltrates as Hawkgirl, who was a part of the Justice League at the time, or the regime, whatever you want to call it. And then he's like, oh, nope, you're fake. All right, Martian Manhunter, I'm sorry. We were once great friends, but you betrayed me. I'm going to just straight up kill you to set you on fire.
Yeah, and then they start introducing the secret to all of this is, and especially in the video game. I think when the video game first came out, people were like, how is Lex Luthor battling how is Harley Quinn battling Superman? They were like, no way, this is crazy. I mean, how is Green Arrow battling, Batman? And
the different power levels are very skewed.
They start introducing in the comic here the Green
pill.
power pill, the
Power.
green
Yeah,
power pill,
yeah.
right?
Let's call it that.
So they can take that pill and it pretty much brings you up to Superman's level. I mean,
Yes.
you can trade fists. And it only lasts for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
but you see that Batman has finally mysteriously acquired these green pills, and you don't know from who. Um,
Yes.
but now Harley Quinn is on Batman's side, so she has green pills,
Yep.
and Batman
They
has
they
green
had
pills.
like
They all have
go. They had to do a lot of work, go steal the formula, and
hmm
somebody. I think Alfred dies. Yeah, Alfred
Yeah,
dies trying to do that because he knows that'll help, and that was kind of like how far. That was another huge death for Batman. Was
yeah,
like how far is Superman willing to go? How far is his team willing to go? That's how far. You killed Alfred. That is
yeah.
whoa.
Yeah, they definitely knew how to take Batman to that next level because there's power levels, but then there's also like anger levels. Like
Yeah.
Superman was way
Right.
angry,
And
way
you talked
above
about
talk.
Superman has no private life or next to no private life
Yeah,
anymore, and his family's almost gone. And so he doesn't feel a little remorse about going after Batman's like loved ones too.
yeah, yeah. And then at the end of year one, it kind of sums that Superman realizes this is it's like their third attempt to
Yeah.
kill him. Just
Mm-hmm.
the government tried to kill Ma and Pa Kent and kill him. A Batman tried to kill him. Captain Atom tried to kill him. I mean, Superman now realizes they are trying to kill me, and I'm not going to let that happen.
Yep.
So he pretty much addresses the entire world and says, "Everything stops now. I'm running this
Yeah.
planet, and it's my planet. And if you
Yeah.
don't have a problem with that, you can talk to us." And it's him, Shazam, Green Lantern, Flash, Cyborg, Wonder Woman. I mean, it's the big
Yep.
guns.
Against like street level heroes.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Against Catwoman and Green
Catwoman,
Arrow.
Batwoman, Huntress, Black Lightning's there for a second, but not. Green Arrow. I guess he is a very big player, at least the first 2 years, I believe. Him and Black Canary.
Yeah. Some characters were written so well that I mean, Tom Taylor built up these like crescendos where they were like good one-liners or good.
Yeah.
And if they were going to die,
Mhm.
they always went out with a really big purpose, right?
Yes. Everything was
And
very purposeful.
yeah,
Yes.
everyone had that like moment where you were like, whoa, that is their character. Like that is
Yeah.
awesome. And year two pretty much introduces the Green Lantern Corps.
Yes. The War of the Lantern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they realize something's happening on Earth, and
Yeah.
Hal Jordan
He gets
disappeared or
in
something?
a moral dilemma that defines like this character in this book. And after year 2, he doesn't go back.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Green Lantern Corps, for a lot of you who aren't super familiar with them, they are every
Space
race.
cop.
Yeah, it's a space cop. Yeah,
Mhm.
every race, every planet has every sector of every section
Yeah.
of the space has a Green Lantern that protects that
Mm.
area. Our sector has like 3 or 4 Green Lanterns that
Yeah, just because
protect
they're cool.
us.
Yeah.
And Hal Jordan's one of them,
Yeah.
and he is always part of the Justice League.
Yeah.
So the Green Lanterns are governed by the Little Blue Men.
Yeah, the Guardians of the Universe,
Yep,
they call
and
themselves.
So they realize something is going down on Earth.
He's
and
acquiring too
they're-
much power. They were long friends of Superman. They respected Superman, but now he is just going off the rails.
Yeah, and the Green Lanterns, when you have the ring, you can create a hard light construct. So you can anything your imagination can pull,
Yes.
you can make,
Mhm.
and there is a strength
Powered
to
by,
it.
it's powered by willpower.
Yep, and powered by you, just you forcing that will upon the ring and in creating that. So it is cool because when you look at like what constructs different people make, like if they're an artist, they make things that are very
Unique.
swervy.
Mhm.
And if they're an architect, they make things with like gears and pistons, and
Yeah.
you notice what it is. If you're into cars, they make big vehicles and things. So usually when they make those constructs, you can't like get around them. You can't break them. I mean, they're constricting, and Superman in all his rage can just bust right through them.
Yeah.
You have to have a higher willpower than Superman. So unless you can force your strength through the ring and force your mind to not be even an ounce afraid of what's in front of you, uh, you're not going to win. So Superman is a fearsome, scary foe when he is mad. So when you put together a construct, you better hope you are just as strong as him.
So I guess more setup to leading to the War of the Lantern. Superman breaks Batman's back. I guess we kind of skipped over that a little bit. We got ahead a little ahead of ourselves.
Was that year 2?
It's like at the beginning or tail end.
Oh, yeah,
There's
yeah.
a lot that's going on, but I think
it.
that's a significant moment that should be brought up. Is so there's a I guess. Would you like to explain the story of Bane breaking Batman's back?
Yeah, so like in the 90s, there was a storyline called Nightfall where Bane, that's where he became super popular, is pretty much a juiced up villain of Batman,
Mhm.
and he won. He beat Batman and he broke his back.
Right.
And
that's the only way to really put Batman down for a little bit is to break his back. And so that was another cool thing that Tom Taylor likes to do and the artist likes to do. That help him with this is emulate those huge moments in DC Comics. And so when I seen Superman break Batman's back, I'm like, oh man, you're poor spine, Batman. You've seen some better days. But he does, and he puts out Batman in a commission.
But see, even there, because there's quite a few moments where Superman and Batman face off against each other.
Yes.
And earlier on in the story, there are no enhancements. There's no super strength that Batman has. It's just him and Superman start running into each other. And for a while, Superman's like, you can go now. Like he wasn't seeing Batman.
He's like, I'm done. Yeah, he's like, I'm sick of this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man, but I don't want to kill you, but I'll do the next best thing.
Yeah. So now he broke his back, but I mean, he obviously held back.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for Superman,
that's holding back in the story.
Yeah. he was like, could have torn him in half, you know? So like, he just held back.
So that is another catalyst of this war. So during this war of the Lantern, the magic users like hide Batman. And so now they're kind of like, oh, I guess we kind of have to just go with our commands and kind of do our best. And, you know, the War of the Lantern introduces all these politics into it, you know. Why wasn't the Lanterns who've been around for eons, why didn't they help Krypton? Why didn't they save Krypton from exploding?
Right.
That is the catalyst that brings Sinestro, Green Lantern, and the Guardians of the Galaxy and all these aliens together and says, oh, why didn't they do anything? And Superman's like, no, that's a great point. Why didn't they anything? I want to go kill them.
And they're
trying to stop me? No.
Yeah, it kind of brings the question up of Superman, like, where were you? And they were like, we were there. We
were there, but
watched.
We chose not to act because they were on their own path of destruction.
Yeah.
We don't want to change their fate. That's their big thing.
So the Lanterns sort of decide that they're going to try to stop Superman, and they fail.
Yep. Basically, the Bat family is like, "Oh, hey, Green Lanterns, can you help?" No. Well, we won't initially, and then it took like something like huge to, you know, bring them together, take them to war. You know, they said, "Oh yeah, we'll settle everything," and they don't.
Yeah, I mean, you have to also. When you're reading through this, you have to, you know, get really caught into that. I was trying to be a little subjective and just say, is this how it would really go? But, you know, they did a good job. I think this is really how it would go, like really what would happen. And there's a couple twists where you're like, oh, no, that was their chance and they didn't take it.
Yep.
You know, and that's the thing. Everyone else wants to take Superman alive. And Superman does not. And
no, because they don't, again, they have morals, they have boundaries, there's the line. They don't want to pass that line. Well, they got the Superman's rage.
And as the story progresses, Superman starts, I think, like in this psychological breakdown, he starts making choices that you would imagine anyone in power or anyone that has really cracked
Yep.
would happen. So like um, one of them is he needs information. So the only way to get information is to then go to torture. So,
Yep.
he sees Sinestro torturing for information, and Superman's like, hey, that's enough. And then
He's
he
like,
kind
you
of
hired me to
changes
do
his
this.
mind. Yeah.
You hired me to do this. Let me do my job.
Yep. So then Superman's like, very well, go ahead. So you start seeing him take these
Right.
slow steps towards like point of no return, like
Right.
total dark side, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, this
I
isn't
know,
going
like
well.
at a couple points in the book, I think Harley Quinn might bring it up, and there's a few other characters from the regime that brings it up, is that Superman's grieving, but it's in a very severe way. Like he is just only taking his rage. He has not had the time to fully grieve
Yeah.
and on like decompress his emotions
Yeah.
and think logically. He hasn't really had the time to do that. He does it briefly with Wonder Woman in points and things like that, and not so much with his parents or anyone that cared for him. He's just kind of skipping through that. He's like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. I've solved world peace. And if you don't like it, there's the door. Oh, you're gonna stop me? You're dead.
I'm gonna zap everyone.
Zap.
So then year 3 comes up. So year 1 was like ground level people trying to stop Superman, didn't work. Year 2, Green Lantern Corps didn't work. Year 3,
yeah, this is where it gets wow.
It's like Andrew's
and yep, Ramos said it. This is like the part where Andrew gets to talk about magic. Yes, he looks forward to us all the time. I was like, oh, magic, all right.
So the first guy that appears, of course, lights a cigarette. Who is it?
John Constantine. And before we go delve in, Superman's other weakness besides kryptonite is magic.
Yes, he's not very good at all with magic, and he has a
magic coup dis.
It hurts him.
Yeah,
it really hurt him. Yeah, yep. So they introduce John Constantine. Of course, John Constantine.
He's like Batman without rules.
Yeah, like he's like Doctor Strange
without goodness. Like he doesn't care, but he cares without caring. I guess, he just continues to light a cigarette, even though it's like bad for his health, and he's just going to keep doing it. It's kind of like that kind of thing.
It's funny. He goes up against like total devils and just
devils.
Like
he's
huge
kind of a warlock,
and he's just like shrugs his shoulders, like,
yep. Go up against God. All right, I can put toe to toe with that. Sure.
So Batman gets a hold of him and says, we need to resort to all the magic users. And,
because he's really good friends with all those guys.
Yeah. So he starts tapping into that. Now, Batman doesn't like magic.
He doesn't. Yeah. He thinks of it as like a science that can't be explained, but he also respects magic at the same time, though.
Yeah.
So like a love-hate with him.
So he knows that there is a big weakness with Superman, but he also knows that it's beyond him.
Yeah.
So he just starts saying, we need to gather up all of the magic users now, like get them on our side quick.
Yeah. So he goes to John Constantine, and Zatanna says, hey, do you guys know anybody that could help us out? Sure. So, he kind of teams up with them, and John Constantine, he makes like a pact with the devil and Trigon, Raven's dad. So for the regime or the Justice League, however you want to refer to it, their only magic user was Raven. And Batman kind of like took her out of the picture, said, hey, we're just going to put her on ice for a little bit. And so they can't really do anything against us.
I noticed they pulled some pretty big guns out of the right away. Like Flash, they pretty much captured him right away.
Yeah, they did. Yep, because otherwise that fight would end in 2 seconds.
Oh, captured Raven, captured some of the other big levels.
They do a good job of like, how can we exploit Batman's weaknesses? Magic, lead, trying to find kryptonite sources. Tom Taylor really thinks about it that hard and all the levels.
And Lex Luthor sides with Superman, which was a big surprise because people are like, Lex, you hate Superman.
Yeah, but then Lex kind of slowly goes, I'll help you, Batman. I just can't look like I am.
Yeah, I'm going to play both sides.
Yeah.
So John Constantine, then they start battling with Shazam. They start battling with the Spectre. Deadman comes. I mean, it's pretty much everyone.
We find out like Spectre was really Mr. Pitalik.
Yeah.
Which is a very like off the wall idea that's really ingenious. Mr. Pitalik can do like anything. He's there's some cosmic people in the DC universe that can warp reality, and reality is just their plaything.
On a massive scale.
So Spectre was a character that could do that. Mr. Pidalick, you can do that. And just to kind of play with those huge characters and how they kind of bring them to the level of the fighting that happened in Injustice is pretty cool.
Because, the other writing style too is, if I don't want to say like the DC universe is broken in this way, but for Marvel Comics or DC or really anyone, it's like, all right, so you have Spider-Man and Daredevil and
The street level
and Iron Fist,
Yeah.
like whatever. And if you threw Wonder Woman over there, like they wouldn't stand a chance. Like
Nope.
they'd be done, right?
No way.
So in DC Comics, they have like ground level, little stronger, Superman level. Then they have like massive cosmic, like
entities,
huge things. And
Yep.
and for them to bring them into this story shows that they're going to bring in every DC character like ever.
And they're also attacking Superman and Batman alike with different angles.
Yeah.
And that's what the ingenious of Injustice is we're not gonna it's not just gonna be Batman versus Superman. Yes, it is, but
like
they're
throwing
gonna
punches.
Throwing punches. It's every angle you can think of.
Yeah.
And I love that. Every perspective going through each character, the supporting cast is really fleshed out. We really enjoy that part.
So the story, I think, just picks up all over again. Every time a new year starts, it's like, what is the spin here?
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
a theme.
This was great. I mean, I have not read a lot of John Constantine. I haven't really read a lot with like Dead Man and stuff even in there.
Right.
So for me, a lot of these introductions, like the Tower of Fate and
they find a way to bring back Nightwing, and that made me so happy.
and the way that they are coming up with like how sad it is to see some of these entities who've said, I've been around for centuries, 3,000 years, and they're now withering away.
Right.
So they're really brought out, like, even who is the Spectre talking to? The Shadow? No.
So
the Stranger.
The Stranger. Yeah. So the Stranger, he's kind of so the Stranger kind of balances out the Spectre. He's kind of a little more grounded, but he still like thinks of everything big picture. Like, you can't meddle with the affairs of mortals that much. Like, yes, you're the spirit of vengeance, not Ghost Rider, but the other spirit of vengeance. Yes, you carry out your will and you punish the wicked, but this is going too far.
Like, you can't pick a side.
You can't pick a side. Yes. And then out of character, Spectre goes, screw you. And then he kills him seemingly. I don't think he ever really dies, but he fades out. And so like, whoa, okay, something's going on. And just to have that reveal of Mr. Pidalick and everything like that was like, okay, that was really cool. I didn't see that coming. And they kill off Dead Man, so they have to find a new Dead Man, which is Nightwing. That's why I kind of fanboyed about for a minute. And it was really cool how they connected all the magical entities and Zatanna and everybody on the DC universe together to do this.
Yeah, and Superman brings up a lot of points when he's fighting Batman. They get into debate about
a lot of ethical debates.
Yeah, and Superman says, Batman, you're going too far. You made a deal with a demon. Like, you went too far.
Yeah.
And Batman's like, no, you went too far when you killed the Joker.
Yeah.
And
Superman all goes says, back to it.
I did what you couldn't do. And
it's so a long-standing debate.
Yeah, it's a long roundabout, and Batman just keeps coming up with new ways, and Superman is surprised by just how
many
Batman
angles
is
and
like able to do that.
Because he's friends. They're both friends with a lot of people.
Yep.
And they have a lot of connections.
Yeah, that's true.
Networking pays off, folks.
So someday when you need to network all your friends to take down Superman. But yeah, every time it comes up, and even as the readers, that's why this story is so popular, because even as the readers, you don't see all this happening. There's so many turns that you don't realize what is going to be next, and Tom Taylor just keeps it keeps it fresh. He keeps it
Yes.
totally fresh.
Yep. The pacing
And
continues on very well throughout this book.
yeah, and then when like at the end of volume 1, Superman, Green Lantern, Sinestro, Ares, the god of war, Wonder Woman, and Shazam. I mean, it's like they are the heaviest hitters. They come up against Batgirl and Huntress and
Yep.
cops and
The juiced up.
Harley
Yep,
Quinn.
they have to juice up.
So they're
gotta
like,
take a green pill, and then they're on their level, and then they're like, "Oh, we have a chance."
yep, they're like,
Yeah.
everyone pop a pill quick, and
Yep.
then they're on it. So
Right.
so the first volume pretty much ends with
Yeah, and we find out like John Constantine also had like another angle, but I'll let you, the reader, find that out.
yes, that's a
But
good one.
it was very cool. John's always thinking 3 steps ahead. Do we want to touch on the Teen Titans?
Yeah, I thought that was cool at the end.
So
It was like a
this
flashback,
story
right?
made me cry. Inside.
You love the Teen Titans.
I do.
so much.
They're like, yes, some people fanboy more about the X-Men. I fanboy a lot about the Titans. I grew up with them, watching the cartoons, loving the story. I'm slowly starting to read more of their stories. And they're like, oh, hey, we should, well, yeah, we're going to totally side with Batman. Let's go up to Superman, kind of find what's going on. And, Superboy is in this. They're kind of going off the Jeff Johns run of the Teen Titans, I think, at the time.
Mhm. And Superboy is just like
Yeah, he's a clone
Totally.
of Superman.
yeah, but he sees that Superman killed Joker, and
Yeah,
he's like,
and he's trying to
he can't get his head wrapped around.
yeah,
it.
so we kind of confront Superman, and we think as the reader, he's a clone. But he also understands Superman, or he thinks he understands Superman. He goes, "Why did you do that? Just talk to me, kind of figure out what's going on." And we gotta stop, dude. And he won't. And he also is like grieving over Nightwing as well.
He
'Cause
says
that
he's
was the
ashamed.
leader. Yeah.
He's ashamed to have the S on his chest.
Yes. And he kind of talks to Martha, Martha and Jonathan Kent about Superman's parents. And he's like, he just needs somebody to talk to and decompress. And so they're like, okay, goes back and kind of brings the Titans together and says, hey, I'm going to go confront him again. All right. And Superman just not going to take it. If you're not with me or against me. And Superman's like, "Rrr," and kills off Superboy pretty fast. The Titans don't stand a chance. And they think they found a way to like save him by going into the Phantom Zone generator. For Superman fans, that was a huge way for Superman to trap his like villains that he can't deal with anymore.
Yeah, if
Take
you
him off the
remember
map.
in like Superman 1 with Christopher Reeves, at the beginning, the villains were thrown into the Phantom Zone, and they were like in that piece of glass flying
Right.
through
Yeah.
space. That was the Phantom
Right.
Zone.
So Superman's like, all right, there's a chance you could save him. He could heal, but I'm not going to fight you guys anymore. I'm just going to throw you in there.
Yeah.
Yep. If you don't want to die, you go in here.
So they say, well,
save your teammate.
Let's stay together. And
Yeah.
as the Teen Titans decide to stay as a team,
Yes.
they go in the Phantom Zone together willingly. And
Yeah.
that's it.
And that's it. And that's all we ever see of them. And it drives me nuts because I'm like, oh, the Teen Titans, they could do something. They did.
Yeah, they did. They
Peacefully.
stayed
together.
So that's the end of volume 1.
Yep.
Which, okay, so volume 1 was awesome.
Yep.
And I thought the pacing was great. At the very end, they did switch writers. Tom Taylor had to jump to another project. So the very end, like, I don't know, 50 pages or something, was a different writer. Then they go into another writer altogether
Yes.
in volume 2.
Brian,
Now,
Brian Butzlaff.
I think we could just sort of roughly touch on volume 2 a little
Yeah.
bit of just the
the
general
sum-
feeling.
yeah,
The
general
general
summary.
feeling is different. Volume
Yes.
1 was so fresh and like crazy awesome.
Right.
Volume 2, I don't know. Just
Yeah. So
Who's the writer again?
Brian Buccellato.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Buccellal.
Buccellato?
Yeah, Buccellato. Yeah. I think he had a good sense of what was going on. He understood what was happening, but again, you're trying to fill huge shoes.
Yeah.
And you can't copy the exact same pacing that Tom Taylor was trying to establish.
Yeah, he was
'Cause
burning
he
through like
he
everyone.
was. And he had the full sense of the idea, the scope of how he wanted the story to go on. To leave that where it was fine. He didn't like leave it in the middle of a year. He left kind of encapsulated and kind of wrapped up all his existing storylines. He did a great job with that. When he gets to year 4, he tries to go kind of above beyond. Still is like, okay, we did magic. All right, let's go to gods. Let's kind of screw around with Wonder
Old
Woman's
gods, new gods, right?
Oh yeah, old gods versus new gods. That was a big thing. They bring Darkseid more into this because we find out in year 2, one of Darkseid's sons starts to try to interfere, and right away, like Superman kills him. Says, "You tell this is the best. This is sending a message." Darkseid saying, "Don't interfere."
Yeah, see, now what's happening is that Superman is getting attention from the rest of the universe. And so they're like, hey, did you hear Superman's trying to take over the earth? And so, of course, everyone wants to come down and see what is happening. And is this true? And if that's possible, if Superman is defeated or if Superman goes crazy, he has always been the guardian
Yep.
of the earth. So he pretty much kept all
Everything
the
in
big
line.
villains
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
You know?
So these gods, they say, hey, Superman is becoming a god himself. We don't really like that, what's going on. So we kind of want to put our dominance back in. And that was kind of what Ares was trying to do in I think it's the end of the second year, in the first volume. He's trying to like set this up. And this is where the payoff comes in as he gets both sides fighting against each other.
Yeah. And in the DC universe, they have real gods like Olympus,
Yeah.
Mount Olympus.
Yep.
Like they have
Your
Zeus,
generals, Zeus,
Hermes,
Hermes, Hera, all your standard Greek mythology, they play into this.
and they kind of
because they tie into Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman is the daughter of Zeus.
half daughter,
Half daughter,
all that stuff. So they've been staying out of this for a while. Most of the time, I mean, I could see where all of this is happening, and the gods of Olympus are like, we're not getting involved. You know, like we'll wait
it was
this
just
out.
kind of Ares had to influence how they get involved. So he kind of does that. Another significant moment that happens during this year of big gods mythology and stuff like that. Batgirl, who was Oracle during the first volume. Oracle is basically
Barbara Gordon.
Yep. She's kind of like their AI, not AI, but their everything's tech savvy.
Yeah. She's their phone a friend.
Yeah, she is their phone a friend. Like, hey, can you look this up? Hey, can you look at the security cameras? Hey, can you see what?
Can you hack into this system? Yeah.
Does everything on that side. And so she's been paralyzed for a while. And the notable story, The Killing Joke, which they kind of, retconned this into hit. There's some flashes of that. And what's significant is she approaches Lex Luthor and says, hey, can you fix my back? I need to go fight.
Yeah. Make me walk again.
Make me walk again. And he's like, this is going to hurt. Are you sure you're not going to regret this? No, I will not. Okay. So that was a huge moment to see her get back into action.
Yeah. Back in costume. Batgirl's back. And you would think that would bring Batman out of his seclusion, and you realize that it's been like 2 years that he's been just hiding everyone.
Yeah.
And he's been building schemes and plans, but he hasn't really been as active since he got his back broke.
At a couple points during, like, especially year 4 and 5, they go, is there really a plan anymore, Bruce?
Yeah.
And he's like, there's always a plan. And I think Barbara was another way of like pushing him to continue to be hope instead of just this depression that he's going through.
Yeah. And so part of volume 2, why I didn't like it, is the pacing changed notably. So right away, you got the idea that whether it was the new writer or whether it was just like, hey, let's stretch this out.
Yes.
I mean, I got a feeling that it was sort of like put everyone on ice. Let's just get the story moving slowly and progressing, like different characters, and nothing really was happening with the big people, Wonder Woman, Superman. No, they didn't really do much. So they started kind of making up these storylines that were Batman trying something. Let's try this. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try this. That didn't work. Try that. And you're like, something has to work, because you're reading hundreds and hundreds of pages.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're like, nothing's happening.
Right.
Like, there is
eventually, like,
nothing happening.
they go to their supporting cast, and like we talked about, Barbara Gordon coming back. Wonder Woman gets put out of commission because of like sleeping pills or not sleeping pills, but sleeping gas that they create from the gods and things like that. They
Yeah,
try to
they
put
put
her
a
on ice.
magical like
They tried doing it
sleep.
to Superman, but they found a way to bring him back out of it, which led to Wonder Woman getting back into action. But they tried to do every single thing they can think of, which as a writer, you're always trying to come up with the next thing and trying to figure out how to do this. Aquaman, we'll briefly just touch on it. He's kind of like the foreign entity or Switzerland that didn't want to get involved.
Yeah.
And even though Batman kept saying, hey, we need you really hard right now. And during year one, like Arthur tries to stand up, Aquaman tries to stand up, and immediately like Superman takes his whole city and puts it in the Sahara Desert and says, if you try to interfere and try to send all your forces against Earth, we're not going to do that.
And Aquaman, so they start setting up like who do you really follow? So like Wonder Woman, now she has the gods of Olympus, Zeus, and everyone's saying you're on our side. And then Superman saying you're on our side.
Yeah.
Well, where does Wonder Woman choose?
Yeah.
Same with Aquaman. So
Aquaman, that and Shazam.
Yeah, and Shazam. And Aquaman has
everyone who has connections
the ocean.
Yeah.
But Poseidon is in the ocean too. So it's like, who does Aquaman report to?
Yeah. Right. So they try to play up trying to grip all these characters together and kind of play on like, okay, you're connected all to these godly connections. Who will you side with?
So the other thing that came up a lot when I was reading was Batman and Superman actually fight each other quite a bit.
Yes.
Like they're constantly meeting. Like
right.
Half of the volume goes by. Like,
Batman's back does get fixed.
Yes.
He does come back.
Superman's like, where is Batman?
It takes like a year. It takes like a good year for him.
Yeah. And then he's there and they battle, and then they all like leave. And you're like, he was right there.
Right. Yeah. I guess so. And then we get to year 5. They kind of wrap up that new gods versus old gods. They wrap it up. And they kind of tell the gods, stay off.
Everyone sort of has a truce.
Yes. Like which was really cool to see the new versus old kind of play up with that. Like I guess I want to say that the new writer does like to do that, trying to continue with the legacy part and kind of to put the cool spins on that Tom does do in the initial run. He just does it in a different way.
Well, he kind of put a little seeds of doubt,
seeds of doubt. Yeah. Right. He's trying, I think I guess that was a hard thing when you were doing this series is how do you end it?
Yeah.
How do you end it without Tom?
Oh, one of the best stories in year 4 was Plastic Man.
Plastic Man.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Right. Plastic Man. Here's your quick minute summary. Plastic Man is Mr. Fantastic. He can twist his body. He can kind of shapeshift a little bit.
But he's super capable of getting in.
He's kind of like a Deadpool, a little bit. He has that mixed in with him, so he's really funny. They capture his son, so he has to go break him out, and that really pisses off Superman. But he can't be really killed because he's kind of like that smart to like how do you avoid it? And he's like, well, we're just gonna.
Plastic Man used to be a criminal himself, so he knows
you kind of understand it. There's all those nice moments where you kind of explore like all these underrated superheroes in these stories and underrated villains.
They all have their moment to shine,
yes.
and they all do something that you are unexpected. So that's the fun part too. Is like, oh,
and then I guess we get to the end here or semi-end here is year 5. Year 5 tries to put a wrap on the ongoing fight. It's kind of boiling up. We do get introduced to Bizarro Superman. That's kind of weird, but it's a quirky story. You kind of follow it. Superman's kind of weirded out by it, and just kind of following these characters, you can tell they're fatigued. They're tired of fighting all the time. The villains are becoming more aggressive. They're hiring more villains.
So in year 5, Batman's strategy is, because remember it was
sell out,
ground level, Green Lantern, magic, gods, and then the next one is the
kitchen
public,
sink,
the people, like the world.
Yeah. So
let's
that
get
was
people involved.
The significant moment is, I thought, well, he won't kill people like the average citizen.
Like he wants the world to understand that Superman is
and
bad.
The fact that all these riots were happening and they found like, what was it? A Joker,
a sub clan
some
of Joker.
clan, rebellion clan, which was neat. I like that, but he's like, I don't like you guys, and he just lasers them.
Yeah.
There is nobody.
Superman
He
becomes
likes to silence people before it becomes an international thing.
Yeah, if there's like a riot,
Yeah, right.
Superman just takes them out.
Yeah.
And so you see that Superman is just
And he tries to cover it
getting
up.
worse.
He covers everything up.
So Batman says if we can't get the average citizen to realize that Superman is the worst dictator ever,
Yeah.
then we're gonna lose no matter what.
Yeah.
And they start realizing even if they take down Superman, what are we gonna do? We're gonna rule the
Expose
world.
them. Yeah.
So they kind of start getting that little bit of a, like Andrew said, a little fatigue and a little like, what do we do even if we won? What would we do?
Yeah. What is what happens after if this gets done?
But
What
Batman
happens?
never gives up. He just says, what do you want to try? Like he just looks at everyone and says, what do you want to do? What do you want to try?
Yeah, he's running out of ideas. He kind of he's grieving. He especially about Alfred and Dick, and his sons left him, but he's trying to get him back. But and Catwoman, and the seemingly love of his life. She's like, I don't want anything to do with it anymore.
I mean, Batman's pretty much put everything on the line.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Yeah.
So he's like, he's got one nice plan to try to expose him, and it doesn't really work out. So to end year 5, they're like, what if him and Lex start thinking about what if we go to alternate realities and bring in those guys?
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of ends off, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of do. I don't know if it was like a writer's sort of shortcut, but it's pretty much saying this story is going around and around, and
Yeah.
everyone is corrupted or changed to the point of, well beyond their character trope. And so if they start bringing in other universes,
It can kind of be endless.
yeah, they can bring in Wonder Woman from the other universe comes in, and Superman fights Superman. And so it's like good Superman and bad Superman fight. And that's where it ends. I mean, good Superman kind of takes down bad Superman. And there's one little story at the end of the Omnibus Volume 2 that's
It's
Harley
Harley Quinn
Quinn.
narrates this story. I think it's called Ground Zero.
yeah, and it sets up a little bit of a flashback, but then a little bit of like, this is what's happening right now. And you get the idea that it sets the stage for Injustice 2, which is the
Yes.
volumes after this.
Mm-hmm.
There is eventually a complete wrap up of it, but this is just year 1, Gods Among Us. And you get the idea that the gods part of it is totally true. Like there are gods among us,
Yeah.
and we're glad they're on our side.
Yeah.
But Earth has always been that center point for most of what's happening in the universe because, they say it's like a nexus, or like Earth has the
center of the
focal point.
multiverse.
Yeah.
Right.
And DC just always wants to keep, of course, the Earth as
A focal point.
the number one.
Yeah.
And Superman's a big part of that. So overall, I would say Volume 1 was like total 5 stars. Loved it. Volume 2 is like 3 stars for me.
I liked it a little bit more than 3. I would say like 3 to 4. I didn't really care so Harley Quinn is a great supporting character, and obviously there's a lot of fans of Harley Quinn.
There's a lot of Harley in here.
And there's
I
a
mean,
lot
she's-
of Harley. You do get to see her character progress throughout both volume 1 and 2. So it does make sense to make her, hey, what if she narrates her own story?
Yeah.
And people will gravitate to that, which is a good idea. I don't know if that's like would hit us and target us so much. We just kind of were all in for the ride. But we also, I think it took out a little bit of the momentum and the heat that was going on, just to kind of not reset it. But when you start alternative universes, then you go to Harley Quinn. That's a jump.
Yeah. I mean, Volume 1 had a lot of battles and a lot of momentum, and Volume 2 had a lot of like planning and try this, try that, then plan, then try this.
Yeah.
And you didn't really see much payoff from even their planning. And I thought it was like great to sort of explore the
Ifs, ands, and buts.
Yeah, or like, battle fatigue. Like, okay, that's cool to explore battle fatigue a little bit, but you still you still have to get the pace going a little better. You still have to get it going.
So it's a really good read. Again, support. I would say definitely pick these up if you want to, get the full experience, what the characters say and talk about. It's a really big homage to DC, yet with putting out some different twists and things you would never suspect. You definitely hone in on the supporting cast. You grieve for them. You're really excited when something goes right, but a lot of time it goes wrong, and you get to see a lot of your favorite characters get into situations they normally never get put in, or they're not very comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a big DC fan, this is for you. It's just about every character you've ever read, and it really introduces you to other characters. Like I looked up a few characters that I was
Yep.
like, oh yeah, I remember that guy, but I don't remember everything about
Yeah.
him. So I would say, look into this, and this review was extensive because it's a great long story, and
Yeah, you could
it's a
tell we have a
to
lot
get
of
into.
passion, excitement for this story.
It's a really a
I
lot
know,
to get
like
into.
when I picked this up, when I picked this, I was like, we need something for readers to kind of turn their perspective, understand something new, something
Yeah.
fresh. We always like discussing a what if story, and this one just pushes it to the limit.
And rarely, I mean, if you picked one of these characters, like if you picked Wonder Woman and started reading her comics, you're rarely going to see John Constantine in Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
or Green Lantern in Wonder Woman.
Yeah, so
or
the amount of crossover was
Yeah,
really cool.
it was
too,
really cool.
within the titles. Yeah.
Crossovers are fun.
But thank you for listening. This is Bam Pow Comic Hour with your host, Andrew Honor.
And Chris Ramos, goodbye.
Signing off.